I knew something was off the second my dad avoided looking at me. He stood stiff in the hallway, one hand on a suitcase that looked way too new, like he bought it just for the lie he was about to tell. "It's just a small get-together," he muttered. "Family only. Nothing fancy. Family only." Funny how that phrase suddenly didn't include me. I didn't question him. I didn't ask who was going, or why his shirt looked pressed by someone who actually cared. I just stepped aside and watched him head to the car like a man trying not to trip over guilt. The engine faded down the street, and the silence that followed felt heavier than any argument we never confronted. But the part that stung wasn't being excluded. It was how naturally he did it, like it was routine. My brother, Mason, wasn't always the center of the family universe. There was a time he couldn't make a decision without asking me first. I practically raised him from the time Mom passed, taught him how to navigate people, how to recognize danger, how to take responsibility. He learned everything I gave him, except humility. By 25, Mason had become a walking spotlight, charismatic, polished, obsessed with public image. My dad adored his shine. I became the guy behind the scenes, the one who fixed problems quietly so Mason could look perfect publicly. Then the shift began. Family barbecues I wasn't invited to. Group photos I didn't know were happening. Holidays where my chair mysteriously wasn't needed. I kept telling myself it wasn't personal. But betrayal is never accidental. It's patterned. The pattern showed up 2 months ago. Dad became vague whenever I asked weekend plans. Mason started dressing like a man preparing to impress someone's rich parents. And once, just once, I walked past Dad's computer and saw a seating chart. Dozens of names. Caterer notes. A string quartet listed in the margin. A tiny note beside Mason's name. Stage cue for introduction. Since when did family get-togethers involve stage cues? I closed the laptop quietly. People reveal everything if you watch instead of speak. But the confirmation came from the universe itself. My cousin Leo accidentally shared a picture meant for someone else. Enormous white tents, roses dripping from silver arches, a whole production clearly costing more than my annual rent. The caption read, "Mason and Avery's engagement tonight. Can't wait." So there it was. My dad and brother hosted a massive engagement party and intentionally left me off the guest list. Not because they forgot. Not because they assumed I was busy. But because I didn't fit their image. I didn't break. I didn't text. I didn't cry. I went skiing. I drove to Colorado, pine trees, powdered slopes, the type of quiet that makes you hear your heartbeat. I rented gear, got a hot coffee, and waited until I knew their precious event was underway. Then I snapped a single photo. Me in a bright blue ski jacket, goggles perched on my head, mountains glowing behind me, smiling like my whole life was exactly where it needed to be. I posted it with one line. Sometimes distance is the healthiest boundary. No accusation. No names. Just truth. The fallout was nuclear. 3 hours later, my phone started vibrating like it was possessed. "Leo, bro, what happened? Everyone's asking where you are." My aunt, "Honey, why didn't you come? Your dad looks sick." Then the message from my father. "Why would you post that? People think we excluded you." Mason is furious. Avery's family is demanding answers. "Take it down now." Assuming the worst, he said. People assume the worst when the truth fits too well. I didn't reply. Silence exposes people faster than shouting. When I pulled into my driveway the next afternoon, Dad was already waiting by the door, hair mussed, shirt wrinkled like he'd slept in it. "What the hell were you thinking?" he snapped, voice too shaky to sound angry. "You embarrassed us." I stepped past him into the living room. "You embarrassed yourselves," I said calmly. "I just went skiing." Mason walked in a moment later, expression tight, expensive suit jacket slung over his shoulder like a casualty of war. "You made it look like we abandoned you," he said, pointing at me like I was the scandal. "You did," I replied. "I just didn't hide it." For once, no comeback. No smug grin. No well-rehearsed charm. Just silence and the weight of consequences. The next week was chaos for them. Avery's parents wanted explanations. Relatives whispered. People wondered why the supposedly tight-knit family had a missing son. The engagement photos were overshadowed by questions no one wanted to answer publicly. They tried rewriting the narrative, but my single-line caption was louder than all their excuses combined. Dad eventually apologized, but it wasn't clean. It was fragmented, clumsy, like he was trying to put out a fire without water. Mason never apologized. He just avoided my eyes, like facing me meant facing the truth. My revenge wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was a mirror. I didn't destroy their perfect night. I simply told my part of the story without saying a single lie. And sometimes the quietest truth is the sharpest justice.